Aware of the Democrats' repeated promises to flood the White House with subpoenas and document requests, the president had this to say about these investigations over the weekend.
So now they go and morph into, let's inspect every deal he's ever done. We're going to go into his finances. We're going to check his deals. We're going to check. These people are sick.
Okay, let's bring in National Security Attorney Bradley Moss, columnist at The Hill, Kristen Tate, and Fox News contributor, former GOP congressman and author of The Deep State, Jason Chaffetz. Great to have all of you with us.
Good evening, Shannon.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for having us.
And we just now have a tweet in from Congresswoman Maxine Waters, who's chair of the House Finance Committee. She says this: obstruction of justice reality show. Firing Comey, sending coded messages to Manafort and others that he has the power to pardon, lying about Trump Tower meeting, threatening Cohen's in-laws, attempting to destroy Mueller. What more do we need to know? Impeachment is the only answer. Jason?
Well, she started saying impeachment pretty much when the president was elected. Mueller is still in place. The Democrats joined the Republicans. In fact, they were even more vocal about getting rid of Comey. It was Rod Rosenstein who put together that memo. And what the Democrats are doing is a total and complete overreach. It has to have a congressional purpose. You're not allowed to just go fish everywhere with 80 different people and hope that you find some fact that you can grab onto.
Well, and we had Congressman Adam Schiff, who heads up the House Intel Committee this weekend, saying this about something that may or may not be true.
We're also looking at persistent allegations that the Russians have been laundering money through the Trump organization. I don't know that that's true.
Brad, okay to throw that out there if you're the chair of the House Intel and you say, I'm going to throw this out there, but I don't know if it's true.
Well, look, he's not leaping to an immediate conclusion, which I think you would want to do. You don't want to immediately decide what is and is not true. But let's be real clear here, because Jason put this out there. These requests, the 81 different individuals, entities, corporations, whatever, are all people and entities that have already released documents, these very same documents, to federal investigators in the Southern District of New York, to state investigators in New York, and to the Mueller team. This is basically Congress, the House in particular, getting a duplicate copy of everything for their own report that would encompass all of these different investigations. And remember, under DOJ policy, the president can't be indicted. So no matter what these different teams find, all they could do is write an internal report at the end. That's why the House wants the documents as well.
Well, it's interesting because you mentioned all these other entities that are already looking into all of these things. The New York Times, I think it was today, said basically what Democrats are doing is gathering all the same evidence. So if the Mueller report doesn't pan out, they can actually have the same evidence with a different standard of proof. It's not something that would maybe meet a criminal indictment, but they have other things they could do with it, possibly the I word, impeachment. I want to play something that Jerry Nadler said, congressman who heads up the chair of the House Judiciary Committee, where the impeachment would start. Here's what he said on ABC about laying the groundwork.
Before you impeach somebody, you have to persuade the American public that it ought to happen.
Put that together with his statement where he says, we've sent these document requests in order to begin building the public record. So, Kristen, is this all about getting to impeachment?
Yeah, it's very clear what's going on here. Now that very few people expect some big Russian collusion bombshell from Mueller, the Democrats are prepared to investigate Trump endlessly to find anything to remove him from office. Up until now, the Trump-Russia probe has pretty much existed behind the scenes. These new efforts will, of course, be a lot more public. It seems like there are very few limits as to who or what can actually be investigated. So this could potentially be damaging for Trump. But Shannon, I actually think this will be more politically damaging for the Democrats, because this just reeks of a political effort by the left to remove Trump from office as vengeance for him winning in 2016. These Democrats are obsessed with removing him from office. It's basically become the identity of their party. And I have to think at some point the constituents of these Democrats will demand something from them other than just resist Trump. It really doesn't seem like a great plan moving into 2020.
I mean, there's no doubt that the base on either side is going to be pretty entrenched, whether they're with President Trump, whether they're with the resist movement. So, Jason, what happens to the middle, looking and watching and hearing these reports unfold over months and now years at a time, all the way up to the 2020 election, no doubt?
Well, look, I think they're going to be very dismayed at the Democrats who've been promising since day one. You listen to Adam Schiff, he said that there was actual evidence. There isn't not only no evidence, you don't have even a single witness. And for Adam Schiff to continue to throw out new allegations with no evidence, no witness, no smoking gun is the most irresponsible thing you can do when you're entrusted with that gavel there on the Intel Committee. He's a joke of a congressman. He is no way should be in that position. And I think the voters will ultimately take it out on the Democrats and take him out of power.
We'll see. This is what Sarah Sanders from the White House says tonight. Chairman Nadler and his fellow Democrats have embarked on a fishing expedition because they're terrified that their 2-year false narrative of Russian collusion is crumbling. The Democrats are not after the truth. They're after the president. Bradley, do you think that the American public may view it that way?
I don't think quite yet. I think, look, the president's already an indicted co-conspirator in the Southern District of New York, tied up in a criminal conspiracy that his former personal lawyer pled guilty to. Despite what Jason just said, there are already pieces of evidence out there about criminal coordination. You had Paul Manafort, the campaign chairman, giving 75 pages of polling data to who? The Russian intelligence guy, Konstantin Kilimnik. You had Roger Stone coordinating what he at least believed was information about WikiLeaks and giving it to the campaign. Is there going to be the smoking gun we remember from Watergate? I don't know. I'm not of that information any more than Jason does. But neither of us can conclude one way or the other where this will go.
All right. Well, we should know at some point when the special counsel wraps up. In the meantime, we'll have plenty to wade through with these Democrat investigations on the Hill. Thank you all. Power panel, great to have you.
Absolutely.
So they don't have anything with Russia. There's no collusion. So now they go and morph into, let's inspect every deal he's ever done. We're going to go into his finances. We're going to check his deals. We're going to check. These people are sick. They're sick. I saw a little shifty Schiff yesterday. No, it's the first time. He went into a meeting. And he said, we're going to look into his finances. I said, where did that come from? He always talked about Russia.
That was President Trump at CPAC slamming House Democrats. This comes as they ramp up their investigations into the president's finances following Michael Cohen's public testimony this past week on payments made to women before the election. Joining me right now is Democratic Congresswoman from New York, Carolyn Maloney. She sits on the House Oversight Committee, and she's wearing a jacket which was given to her from the Fire Department of New York. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Maria.
Yeah, I want to get to the compensation fund for the 9/11 victims in a second, because I know that's why you were in the jacket, and good for you that you're wearing that jacket. I was there at the New York Stock Exchange, and it's a horrible day, and we'll never forget. We know that. But let me ask you first about Michael Cohen. Congressman, some of those questions last week were so bizarre. Does President Trump have a love child? Does he beat his wife? I mean, all this stuff focusing on everything that the American people really do not want. They would like to see these two sides work together. What's your reaction to Michael Cohen last week, and what are you trying to do?
Well, I thought that his testimony was alarming because it did point to possible crimes and campaign finance violations, ethics violations, and possible tax and insurance crimes. And he gave a list of people that he thought could lead to other possible crimes. And this really was the first hearing, oversight hearing that the Democrats had on the White House and holding them accountable for alleged crimes in trying to influence and disrupt an election and other things.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, look, we know that there was no collusion so far. We have no evidence of that. We're waiting on the Robert Mueller report. But isn't it true that you're supposed to follow and see if there was wrongdoing done and then follow the crime? But here it's like you got your guy and you want to find a crime. You want to look under every rock to try to hope to find a crime. You got your guy, Donald Trump. He's the guy you want to find a crime. I mean, that's the path you and your colleagues are moving toward.
I would say that our whole system of government was founded on checks and balances and holding everyone accountable and holding everyone to the law.
Did Michael Cohen perjure himself again? Because a couple of times he said things that some of your colleagues on the right are saying, look, that's a lie. Like he said he didn't want a job in the White House. He said he's never been to Prague, by the way. That was what the dossier said.
Well, I believe him because he has no reason to lie. Right now, as you know, he's going to jail,
right.
Partially because he lied to Congress, and he would gain nothing by lying to Congress again, except increasing his term in jail.
So how do you justify bringing a guy down who's already lied to Congress once, and that's why he was indicted and he's going to jail, but this is your first witness? I mean, given there's all of this wrongdoing and upset over the FISA abuse and what happened in the 2016 election, is this really the first person you want to bring down to question?
Well, he was one of the closest confidants of the president for 10 years, both while he was president and while he was running for office, and even before that. He gave valuable information about how the president operates. He answered one of my questions about meetings, because the president always says, I knew nothing about this meeting. He said nothing ever happened at Trump Tower or any time that was an important meeting, that the president was briefed before the meeting and the participants went back and told him what happened at the meeting. Right now we're trying to gather information. He also testified that he was cooperating with prosecutors in several other investigations. Yeah. So there is a lot of investigations, including the important Mueller one, where the facts have to be looked at and studied to see if there was any obstruction of justice, if there was an attempt to influence the outcome of an American election with a foreign power.
Right? I think Michael Cohen also said
he
no.
said.
Yeah.
But there could be other people.
So from the House, the Senate, the DOJ, and the FBI that there's no collusion. I mean, so
well, he gave us a list of names, and I know that the Democrats are sending out questions to roughly 60 other witnesses to gain information. What we need to do, and I think you did hit something, that it should be more bipartisan.
Yeah.
We should start agreeing on a set of facts that both sides agree on.
Right. We should agree on at least the Constitution.
We do
due process, things like that. But there's a lot of division.
We have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to the American people.
You absolutely do.
And on honesty in government, on oversight in government,
we all want.
And we want our democracy to be just as strong after we leave office as
well. I'm with you on that. That's for sure. But there is a lot of division in your party right now. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez basically stopped Amazon from coming to your district, New York. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do to get Amazon back, and your reaction to all of that?
Well, to me, I find it tragic that they are not coming at this point, and I have joined the governor and the mayor and many, many others, including the leaders of all the public housing projects, the leaders of our community, the people that I represent. They wanted Amazon to come. They wanted the jobs. They wanted the transit improvements.
But AOC didn't want it. Is she the face of your party at this point? I mean, she's talking about this Green Deal that's going to cost $94 trillion. What are you going to do about it if you're a moderate Democrat and you're faced with these radical ideas all the way to the left?
Well, we can always disagree. We don't always agree on everything, so you fight for what you believe in. I believe in a diversified economy, and I believe in more jobs for New York, and I think this statement that we're working to reach out to Amazon is an important statement to other businesses, that we want to welcome jobs, that we want to work with them to help our country and help people.
First, you've got to get the tax structure better, and you've got to make sure you're not double taxing, right? And you've got...
Absolutely. That's the biggest...
So have you spoken to Cuomo about that?
Oh, absolutely. Everyone in New York is totally opposed to what we call SALT, removing the deduction of city and state taxes. Right. It is an arrow into our heart. We have to change that. I'm working on a report on how it impacts not only New York, but every other state.
We had a hard break, so we've got to go. But this compensation fund is so important. Thank you so much for pushing for it. The victims need help.
Thank you for supporting the victims and survivors and first responders of 9/11.
Of course.
They were there for us. We need to be there for them.
Congresswoman,
and we need to pass and make permanent the Victims' Compensation Fund.
Congresswoman.
Thank you, Maria.
Carolyn Maloney will be right back.
Thank you. Good to see you.
You too. Thank you.